West Virginia, and one of the coworkers invited me to go skiing with him one weekend. I was the junior guy at this office and not making the money that some of the senior guys were making, and this skier was one of the senior ones. He was going to try this fancy new snowshoe resort, which was atop a mountain where you could actually leave your hotel room on skis and go right down the mountain. You didn't have to go find a lift or anything like that. I did not have that kind of money, and so I had to go to an inn down in the valley. And as I left after work to go to this inn in the valley, it was storming something fierce. There were periods where it was near whiteout with the snow that was blowing around. And I could even feel being blown sideways on the icier parts of the road. So I did not get in to the inn in the valley until about 9 o'clock, and I had not had dinner. As I went inside the inn, I saw that the restaurant portion of the inn was empty but still lit, and I saw the waitress, and I said, by chance, is there any way to get dinner? And she said, well, I'll tell you what, I think I can whip up something for you, like a sandwich. I'm like, well, that'd be great. And she said, well, you just sit right here, and I'll put something together. I sat down at the table, and I was looking around. This inn was pretty new, and it wasn't old rustic type of inn. It was really bright and shiny. And as I was looking around, I looked in the other room, and standing outside what I learned was the office door was the figure of a man wearing a black hat and black clothing, and he had a mustache and a cigarette. And I was like, this is very strange. He wasn't even dressed like what I would expect someone to be dressed like inside. And anyway, the waitress came from the other direction, and I looked up at her, and she had a sandwich. And then I looked back at in the direction of where I saw this figure, and the figure was gone. As the waitress put down the sandwich, I asked, how old is this place? You see, the reason I asked was I had done plenty of ghost tours, and really the old places seem to have the most ghost stories. You don't have many ghost tours going through a parking garage or anything like that. And so she said, this is just this is actually a pretty new place. Why do you ask? And I said, well, it sounds crazy, but I just saw something very strange over there. It looked like a man, a smoking man over there. And she said, oh. I said, well, and you'd expect to see something funny like that in an old place, but not something as new as this. And she said, wait right here. And I'm like, oh, what did I do? What did I start? So I started on the sandwich, but the proprietor of the inn comes in with a large book. It was a photo album, for those of you who remember what photo albums are. And she sat down at the table with me, and she said, I want you to look through there and pick out what you may have seen. But I guess the story had been relayed to her. Anyway, it turns out this was one of the innkeepers. It was a couple that were innkeepers. And so I flipped through that photo album, and I picked out a man who looked like the figure that I saw, a photo. And she said, oh. And I asked her, I said, well, who is it? Because I'm really curious. And she said, well, that's my father-in-law. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't mean anything by it. He says, oh no, he's passed. And I said, oh, well, you know, I have to be honest with you, I didn't expect to see anything like this in such a new-looking place. And she said, oh yeah, he used to run this inn, but he burnt it down. I said, oh. She said, yeah, he was smoking in bed, and it caught fire, and it's all burnt down, and my husband and I got the insurance money and rebuilt the inn. I'm like, oh, okay, well, redeeming that tragedy. So I said, so do you have any other people who see things? And then she says, not really other people who see things, but we do have a few rooms where people can have dogs, because the dogs go bananas over a presence in those rooms, and doesn't let anybody sleep because they make so much noise. I'm like, okay, so where am I staying? And she said, oh, no, you're not on that wing, you're on the other wing. I'm like, good, let's keep it that way. I don't want to have any great ghost experiences. So I finished up the meal and said goodnight to those ladies, and I went to my room. And I, locked up like you would at any strange place you may be. And I tried to go to bed. And it would seem like just as I was falling asleep, in the dark I hear crash! And what had happened is that the front door to that room had swung open, and blowing in all kinds of snow. And I had woken up. I wasn't getting sleep, so I got up out of bed. I went and closed the door, and this time it's like, doubly make sure that I'm locking this. So I bolted it. I did it twice, just I was going to be like monk. And so I went back to bed, and just as I was falling off, I hear crash, and the wind blew open the door, and there's snowflakes swirling around. Oh my goodness! So I got up, and I closed that door, and had to really push it. The wind was blowing so hard. And then I locked it, and then I did it again, and then I did it again, because I was really getting obsessed over this. And so then I went back to bed. There was a third crash. I wasn't sleeping a whole lot that night, but that was the last crash. And so the next day, I met up with my friend with the fancy place on the top of the mountain, and I canceled the next night reservations down in the valley because I was going to bite the bullet